Oh, it is week number 8 NFL, and Ron and I are here better late than never. My, we hope that we've got people in our comments. I'm not sure about Video Land because my Las Vegas Cris Twitter account has been hacked. So and I was already in a bad mood. So it's it's one of these days, and now I've got all these messages on my computer that I don't understand. Ron, what's going on with you? We see your beautiful face again.
It's good to be back in person as opposed to that picture where the beer is missing. No beer with me right now, but enjoyable as always to brainstorm the NFL.
Oh God. Okay, well, I can't. I'm basically limited in what I'm able to do at this point. So, uh, God dang it. Um, Ron, go ahead. I got to get better organized here.
All right. I appreciate the comments. First of all, thanks for everybody that's here. I think a couple of the things I want to discuss today with Cris is where are our power ratings now? Because some of the teams in the top 5 we didn't expect in the top 5. I have another new number 1 power rating team. Thank you, Toma. That works so beautifully with the Green Bay early I think Arizona early, Green Bay late. Arizona's third straight big, what was it, a 7-point favorite in the fourth quarter, and then they lost, or up by 7, and then they lost. So that Green Bay Arizona game worked perfectly. The parlays set to Detroit worked perfectly. Cincinnati, Cleveland, everything really worked. The jerseys did me in with the Chargers. So I'm going to blame the jerseys and not my lousy bet on the Chargers as I continue, Russell and Dan, to underestimate the Indianapolis Colts. So for me, it was a 7-2 week. It was with the top 3 plays. So it was a really good week. Sorry about the Chargers. And I did put in a play on Atlanta, realizing they had one day less. They had a short week, but I still thought there was going to be something missing from San Francisco. I put in a play last week, San Francisco under 10.5 wins. I have a Jacksonville play from a week ago, under 10.5 wins. Jacksonville play looks good. The San Francisco play, maybe not so good. But I went ahead and lost with Atlanta, lost with the Chargers. But otherwise, Cris, a really good week.
Did I hear you say you had Indianapolis number 1?
No, I do not have Indianapolis number 1, but they have made an appearance in the top 5.
Oh.
My new number 1 team is Kansas City. Thanks, Bertie, for your comment. It is nice to be on the cameras again.
Jesus. I got like too much stuff going on, Ron. I'm getting deluged with problems all at once.
Well, I'll keep asking you questions then. Is Kansas City your number 1 team?
Well, I was trying to get to my list, and now I see new problems. So problems are developing live in action of trying to access stuff. So I'm having multiple. I'm adding to my problems list more so than just the Twitter hack.
Okay. Tom says Detroit 1, KC 2, and I'm flipped. I still have Detroit second. I have Kansas City first now. And those are pretty clear, actually, right now in my ratings. And then it gets really crowded after that. Rams, Buffalo, Colts, Eagles. Those would be in any particular order the next 4. But I do have Kansas City 1 and Detroit 2.
I can't find my list, but I know Kansas City. My head tells me Kansas City's number 1, but the metrics won't have Kansas City number 1 yet. Okay. And I don't have Detroit that highly rated either, believe it or not. So
okay,
those would be some differences that I would think I have once I figure this out.
Where are you on the Rams and the Colts then?
The Colts are high. They're in the top 3.
Okay. So we're right there because I have them in my top 5 now.
Why don't you run through week 7 or the 7 games like I normally do, and I'll try to chime in on those.
Okay. So let's go. Well, on Thursday we had the Pittsburgh Cincinnati, and I think we both liked Cincinnati. It was a sweet spot. You got 2 coaches that had years of experience with the same team. There are lots of situations and metrics and power ratings and everything involved, and I don't think we were disappointed with Cincinnati winning.
I was slightly I absolutely despise not getting the other 3.5 the other way, and I had some wagers, or at least one wager where I had the Steelers money line. Otherwise, I had both ends on that. It was basically the game was exactly as I thought it would go.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had 2. I said it on the show last week, I believe, that the underdog teased in this situation had not lost in 5 years and only had 2 losses over the last 10 years. So I had 2 intersecting issues on that game where I had Pittsburgh picked as a model play. So I did tease them, and I also went the Cincinnati route and intersected the 2. And I told clients, I go, listen, these are 2 separate bets. Imagine it's 2 different games playing at the same time. I'm using these 2 separate known positive EV situations. And the lower liability, I use some Pittsburgh money line instead of the 10-point teaser, which I preferred to do. But I'm going to learn from that mistake.
Okay. One final comment, and then I'll go on to the next game. Joe Flacco's touch pass is so beautiful when he's in rhythm like that. The touch pass and the pump fake are the 2 underrated issues in quarterback play that I think people don't understand enough. How to take the air out of the ball in a touch pass and how to pump fake so that your receiver can go down the field against one-on-one coverage. Rams, Jacksonville, pupil against teacher. I had the Rams. I had no problem fading Liam Combs in this particular spot. Stafford with a clean pocket. Any thoughts?
The last thing I wanted to ask, the Pittsburgh defense, what are we going to see this week, do you think? I mean, that was awful.
I think Pittsburgh has some problems. The Pittsburgh-Green Bay game, obviously, it's an emotional game, so it carries its own different set of rules and permutations. Jordan Love hasn't fired on all cylinders. Maybe when we get to that game, we can look at it a little more. But you have to say right now, Pittsburgh got an average defense.
The Rams, I think we have determined the Jaguars were a little high in the metrics. They really have some problems.
Yeah.
The Rams just had their way with them, which was very surprising to me. I thought that Jacksonville would be able to keep it closer. That team is a dog with fleas at the moment.
Yeah, let's hope so. I really am trying to fade Jacksonville. How about 30 plays for Las Vegas in the entire game against Kansas City? We talk about Mahomes, the return of Rashee Rice, and everything else, but let's not forget Kansas City's doing some things defensively that are amazing right now. And maybe Geno Smith, not the quarterback people, he can have a big game, but he can also have games where he's just not contributing to a win.
I'm sorry, I lost you there.
Oh, well, thanks for listening.
I have no choice. I'm in the middle of password reset hell here and generate a code from here hell.
Okay. Well, all I said was Vegas 30 plays total. Kansas City's defense is actually being underrated, and Geno Smith isn't helping that team at all. I did not have a play on this particular game.
You know what? It wasn't going to surprise me to see Kansas City blow them out, and I see the word of the day for this upcoming week is Well, it's too hard to put two of those games together. I think I said it last week that I think this is a different Kansas City team. I think they're more powerful than people realize. Their receiver depth is just remarkable for where they were 2 years ago. That team's coming together, and I feel like this isn't the same Kansas City team that wants to win by one possession. I feel like you have to be careful with this Kansas City team. I think they want to put people to sleep.
Yeah, there are two losses this year. I expected the loss against the Chargers, and we knew that was going to be an emotional Monday night football game against the Jags that went back and forth. But this team is throwing downfield, and I have no problems with Kansas City being number one on my power ratings right now. Cleveland, Miami, this was probably my favorite game of the day, even though I kind of flat bet my top three bets about the same, put it in a parlay to the Lions. Cleveland splits, we talked about this. Well, we've talked about this a lot. Cleveland splits at home are really good. You were high on the unders. You had that, obviously capped very well, although it was scary with the early starts and stuff like that. Miami's a different team. When they face this kind of a defense and this kind of a win, they just don't do well in adverse weather conditions. Miami's going one way, and Cleveland at home plays better.
Yeah, this was a odd game. The under was obviously a very strong play. Had to worry about that early, but the Cleveland did nothing on offense. I think they averaged 3.7 or 3.8 yards per play, which is anemic. They were they gifted 2 pick sixes or fumble sixes. The defense, carried them, and Tua did some dumb things. It was a really odd game. But the bottom line is your point about Miami and weather is so true.
Yeah, Miami just doesn't hit the. they're going the wrong way. Ted's in the chat there, touching greatness. Hi, Ted. Tennessee and New England. Now, this is a game at the beginning of the year would have been a nice spot for Tennessee, but as we got to this game, Tennessee was in complete disarray. They had no team. Their metrics were off. There was a complete pass for me. Probably should have leaned New England. I'm sure a lot of people teased them and did a lot of things with them. I did nothing on the game. I'm not surprised at the result because Mike Vrabel, we talked about they won free agency. They won the draft. They had the soft schedule and they upgraded at the coaching. And all four of those things make them squarely in the playoffs like we discussed last week.
Yeah, I've had the Patriots rated highly, and we knew that they were going for their third straight road win. And I said, I felt that they were a little different. I think I felt that they were going to come in and they would be focused. I just sensed that they weren't going to fall into that trap. I mean, it's something you have to worry about. You had the coaching change situation to worry about with the Titans also, but. Surprisingly enough, it wasn't much of a fight there, was it?
No. So this next game is interesting. Chicago and the Saints. I had set Chicago 7, and the line opened 5.5, and then was 5. I hadn't planned to get involved at all, but then the line went to a very cheap 4. And a couple of our listeners, I DM'd them a couple of times because they were asking me about a couple of games. And I said, something, Chicago's getting into playable range. I don't know where your power ratings were on this particular game, but the difference between 7 and a soft 4 made it a power rating play for me. And I ended up with a 1-star play on Chicago. Again, we talk about how New Orleans continues to try, but they just don't have the roster.
Yeah, I was kind of in the middle on that game where it did swing to be extremely close to being a play, but I had a toilet roll of stuff in already, so I wasn't looking to add stuff necessarily. But it did. The alarm bells went off on the Saints when that line moved so far down. As any underdog line move really should set off alarm bells when underdogs are the big move.
Yeah, Tommy, hi. Great to see you in the chat. We got to have breakfast sometime soon. I'm almost ready to do that kind of thing. So thanks for everybody in the chat. Philly, Minnesota is a game that I would have taken either team +3, but never got the opportunity. I don't know what to think about this game. Yeah, give me some insight on this game. Did it play out kind of the way you thought?
No, not at all. Minnesota was lucky to cover. I thought it would be closer, and the issue, their center went down in the middle of the game, I believe, and somebody else in their O-line went down. They were 1 for 6 on red zone trips. They were -2 in turnovers, and they finished within 1 possession. I mean, if Philadelphia needs that much help, what does that say about Philadelphia? But I saw the highlight reel of Wentz, and it's another disaster. So a lot of moving parts analyzing that game and looking forward to it. That's not really a huge feather in Philadelphia's cap, if you ask me. There's two sides of the coin of looking at that Minnesota loss.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Again, we know that Hurts likes to throw deep, and he connected because it's interesting with Brian Flores. It's almost all in for him. He can dictate play defensively and confuse a lot of quarterbacks. But Jalen Hurts is a pretty smart quarterback, and you can go deep on Flores. I mean, you're going to get some single matchups at times. And with the wide receivers Philly has, it looked like those couple of big plays broke open the game. But I don't know. I don't really have anything that I'm changing moving forward for either team right now.
I'm alarmed with Minnesota. You brought it to my attention this morning. You wanted to look at Minnesota, and I was shocked to see that their season win total was down to 7.5. But frankly, they're going to have a hard time getting over that 7.5. They're just getting we've talked about the perfect trip. They're getting the worst trip possible. For them to have a lot of optimism about the rest of the season with the schedule they have in front of them and the teams that are above them, that balloon could be deflating awfully quick. And, they're running Wentz out there again this week, saving McCarthy for Detroit the following week. It's just never, they have to face Detroit off the bye. It's just, it's going to be interesting for Minnesota going forward, because I felt that it all boils down to this stupidity of letting Darnold go. I mean, why would you sit there and hand off an organization to somebody that has not seen a full game of NFL experience? It just dumb. We talked about it before the season started.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. Tom says, is Philly power rated in the top 12? I had them tie 6 right now. And Comet says things about their season win total. The season win total actually in Vegas was 9.5 under -115. So it got up there as far as Minnesota's season win total. I did not watch the Carolina Jet game, and part of the reason why I'm on screen today is because my health improved by not watching the Carolina Jet game. So I think you're dealing. I think Carolina's they've won 3 in a row. They're feeling great, but I don't have them highly power rated, and the Jets are a colossal mess right now. One of those teams you don't want to back at home because the home fans don't like their team.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if they're falling in love with them or not. The strange thing coming up is, Bryce is going to be out, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So if they were coming home and Bryce Young was starting, I think that there would have been some momentum. That seems like a momentum breaker. Who's the quarterback?
Well, the backup is highly experienced because it's Andy Dalton. So I'm Andy Dalton, former Cincinnati quarterback. Second best game I've ever seen, and I saw it live. TCU against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl.
Man, that guy's trying to bring out the Flacco in himself, huh?
Yeah, it would be interesting because he's a smart quarterback and he knows what to do. He just may not have the physical body to do it. We'll talk about that game there because we know there are moving parts for Buffalo as well. Maybe we skip the Carolina Jet game and we go to the Charger game, the game I lost. Because we have a couple of people in the chat that need to educate me a little bit more about Indy and why did I fade Indy against the Chargers last week? It's just everything is just going perfectly for Indianapolis. Their metrics look good. I thought the Chargers would be able to, with a veteran quarterback and some sense of running game and some sense of pass rush, I thought they would get to Daniel Jones, but apparently no one is getting to Daniel Jones this year. I don't understand it, but I'm going to have to readjust my thinking on the Colts.
I had that line way off last week and thought Indianapolis I thought Indianapolis should have been favored in the game. They're just doing everything. They're well rounded. They've been. I just checked my ratings list. I do have Kansas City number 2, even by the metrics, and they've made a quite the run up.
Yeah.
But Indianapolis has been. I kind of left them a little bit under the radar, but indicated that Indianapolis is showing pretty strong, and that wasn't that much of a surprise to me.
Yeah, it was one I missed, so I'm never going to complain about a 7-2 week, but it's me. It's on me. It's not on the lines makers. I need to adjust on Indy, and I'll try to do a better job of it moving forward. One thing I think we both agreed on, was Denver hasn't. For all their incredible stats, it just seemed like Denver was not the right side against the Giants. Another game, a lot of people, this is a talking point, Chris, because a lot of people say you got to make your bets Monday, Tuesday, you got to make them early and stuff like that. It's not always true for the NFL. This line went as high as 8.5 and 9, with the Giants getting +8.5 and +9 prior to kickoff against Denver. And it created an opportunity because they had an elusive quarterback. They had good spirit. They play well at home. I don't know what I missed, the fact that the Giants were going to be competitive in this game, and I was able to play them. I didn't want them at +7. I wanted them above. I actually wanted them at 8 or more, and then we got it at kickoff.
Well, the Denver wasn't a model selection, but I ended up teasing the hell out of them down to pick.
That was good, dude.
The model leaned. I mean, when the model leaned toward Denver a little bit, but then it passed it. So I saw 9s before the game. I might have even seen 9.5. I forget, but that was a real sweat job. That would have been maybe a mediocre week, even worse. It just absolutely amazing how they just came to life. I mean, the Giants gave them new life, and they're just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, 0-0-0 and 33 in the fourth quarter is a very strange stat line. Yeah, the Giants were on the road, and I especially with the quarterbacks they used to have, I prefer playing the Giants on the road and fading them at home. This loss is going to stick in their craw for a while because they let one go. They played well enough to win that game.
Yeah.
Dallas was the right side, but this is one where the line moved to Dallas favored. And so I said, I liked Dallas as a dog, didn't play it, and didn't want to get the worst of the line. So I let this game slide. Washington was not quite in a great situation off Monday Night Football. Historically, they don't do well that way. Dak Prescott is really having a fantastic year. Washington's defense, probably even in your metrics, more middle of the pack, maybe upper middle of the pack. But Dallas is scoring on everybody.
Yeah, I was surprised. I had Washington primarily in teasers over the touchdown, and the fact that they weren't even drawing live to that. And it nagged me going in. I had a feeling that Daniels had an issue, that he wasn't going to be 100%. And then, Samuel's out and McLaren's out. And it's starting to feel like, I'm pretty sure Washington is the oldest team in the league, and they're looking like the oldest team in the league now. And it's starting to look like we have given Washington too much credit for what they were able to accomplish last year, and they're probably not a very good team.
I don't think they'll make the playoffs because one thing we talked about, even though I didn't act on it last week, we did discuss this, that Washington's schedule is tougher than last year. There's tape on Daniels, and it's tricky because they don't have, I think, 1 or 2 primetime games last year and 5 or 6 this year because they were the darling team. Everybody saw the comeback and stuff. So everything's tougher with shorter weeks and different preparation and so on. McLaren out. They can't afford those kinds of injuries right now as they're rebuilding the back end of their roster. So I think even though I didn't bet it, I think we understood where Washington was in the scheme of things.
Keep going. I have to do this. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I talked a little bit about Green Bay, Arizona. Arizona's good enough to confuse you. They're good enough to take leads, but they don't have the coaching to close teams out. I don't know how many times I have to say it, and I'm sorry for keep saying it, but I would change the defensive coordinator and I would consider a change at head coach because the draft team gave them all this personnel, first 5 picks, rated draft selections in the 2025 draft. They haven't done poorly in the draft at all the last 2 or 3 years, and they're still not quite getting the job done. And Kyler Murray, I don't think he plays this week. Is that correct? Either way, he's not value added right now in terms of the team. He's not ascending. He's plateauing right now. And they shouldn't have lost to Green Bay. Green Bay hasn't quite found their footing. But we all kind of thought that, okay, Arizona was the right play at the beginning. 7 points was way too much according to my numbers. And it was a power rating play, and it was a strong power rating play. But at the same time, I respected what Arizona brought to the table. And once they took the lead, I said, okay, now's the time to go ahead and buy back on Green Bay. It worked out. They don't always work out, but this was good in the desert.
Where do I have Green Bay? I just can't keep track of all this stuff I'm trying to do at the same time. I said it last week that I didn't think they were rated very high, and I don't think highly of them. And then I corrected myself and said, I apologize. I've got them way up here. I didn't think I did. And that's the way I feel after watching them play last week. I don't know how they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. I don't know how they get themselves in those positions. They were lucky to win that game.
They were lucky to win that game, and they have to play better. They're in my top 10 power rating, but they're not in my top 6, not in my top 7 even. Okay, so the other game I got wrong was Atlanta, San Francisco. San Francisco played inspired ball without, their Fred Warner, which was credit to them. Mac Jones threw a couple interceptions. He's like Carson Wentz to me, Chris, where you can bring him out for a couple of games, but eventually you have to go back to your starter. Eventually you have more upside with Purdy over Mac Jones, and eventually you have more upside with some other quarterback besides Carson Wentz, although McCarthy's going to have training wheels in Minnesota. My issue with Atlanta, and I realized it, I made the bet, I understood it. It was more a bet against San Francisco. My issue with Atlanta is Michael Penix is going to be wildly inconsistent. And I understood that going in, but I still made the play.
Yeah, but you know what? That's a tale. You got to dig deeper into this game. Atlanta was fine. They were fine. They were going to cover this game, if not win this game. And everything was on track. And Penix got injured. And after he got injured, his planting foot, he was sailing balls. He couldn't hit a receiver. I'm sitting there looking at 2 different games because before, earlier in the game, Atlanta looks fine. He's able to, he's making nice throws. Everything's clicking. Then all of a sudden he gets dinged up and he can't hit receivers. Nothing's working for him. And, I was originally, confused on how the hell did that happen? And this makes a little bit more sense that, you got to, a gimp for a quarterback in there. And that's, basically what caused that to get away. That was a brutal game for me to lose. I definitely needed Atlanta.
Yeah, disappointed in their performance, but not shocked because Atlanta's one of those teams that still needs how to be more consistent. I don't know that we're going to see it this year. Everything I expected from Detroit happened in the Detroit-Tampa Bay game, including the fact that Detroit gets too aggressive at times. When they led, 14-3 at half, that game probably should have been about 28-0. They left points on the board. They allowed Tampa to get 3 points at the end of the first half. They did some things that Dan Campbell teams do that I don't like, but you could see that they were in the far superior situation metrically and as far as health-wise. Tampa was the one that was in big trouble even during the game when, unfortunately, one of the great receivers in the game, Evans, is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. But at no time did I think Detroit was going to lose that game.
No, it was never in jeopardy. I was riding the Tampa Bay side, but only on the teasers, and they couldn't even do that. And Evans, when they lost Evans, who's he supposed to throw the ball to? I mean, it's just tough. But that game was a lot closer than it should have been.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the right side. That's why I had keyed that game as making sure that Detroit was live going into that game. Tried to hedge a little bit of the game with the middle. That didn't happen because Tampa just didn't have enough weapons to continue. Their star running back is out. 3 receivers are out. 1 lineman is out. Baker had no one to throw to, and Detroit was going to put the pressure on all game long. And that's what happened. Last game on Monday night was Seattle and Houston. I don't have much to say about it, but just like Indianapolis, and Bertie pointed this out to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's something special about Seattle that they're getting things right. They've learned how to win. They covered on Monday night. Houston offensively is not quite there, and it was going to be tough without Nico Collins, even though the rookies from Iowa State tried to step up, especially Noel. I still like Houston's defense. I like what they bring to the table, but Seattle seems to be on a slightly different level right now, and it's making that NFC West race just going to be an incredible race with 3 teams at 5-2. Good job by Seattle.
That was an extremely frustrating game for me. It was one of the few games that I had to keep an eye on. And I cannot believe that it seemed like Seattle's defensive line was lining up behind the offensive, line. They were like right on Stroud, like, white on rice immediately. It was just, what's he supposed to do? I mean, I couldn't believe he was completing the wide out passes when he was, because he was already going down. I mean, it's just, at one time he has the 2 leading receivers out, Dell and Collins. What's he supposed to do? They kept having the ball. They were first and goal how many times and couldn't get it in. And all I needed them to do was to get into range. I didn't expect them to win the game, but the reality is if they things had gone a little differently, they could have won that game somehow. I don't understand how Seattle could look so good and so bad at the same time. That's what was really strange to me, because their defense looked good in some ways, but their offense, my gosh. And then I thought I saw a highlight video of Darnold and the passes he's been throwing. They've got real problems that have been, I think, covered up with this defense. I've got to take a closer look on this. Where do you
Seattle won despite not playing their best game, and if I recall, -3 in turnovers, and that doesn't happen very much in the NFL. So if Seattle played a normal game, they would have won by more margin. And the chat is right. We've got a problem with the Houston offensive line, and they knew they had a problem coming into the season, and they didn't really address it. Instead, trading a player, losing a free agency player, not really drafting behind the offensive line and then trading a player to Miami, their left tackle. So these are self-inflicted wounds by Houston. They figured Stroud was mobile enough to get around it, but they have to improve their power running game, or at least maybe even just get some wiggle in the run game. They don't have a lot of run-pass balance behind that offensive line right now. I still think Houston's going to be a factor. I think Houston's better than Jacksonville, for instance, but clearly this is Indianapolis's division right now. And Seattle, yeah, they didn't play their best game, but they won. So what can you say on that? Before we get into next week's game, we have 6 teams on bye this week. So maybe a sentence or two about what you think about the placement of their bye week. The Rams are off London and they're in a bye. That helps with Puka. I don't know if he comes back or doesn't come back after the bye. Any comments on the Rams having a bye this week?
I don't know. Well, they are dinged up, but they're not in crisis mode. I think they could have gone a little bit more, and they seem to be kind of getting some momentum. So I'm not sure it is a good time for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral on it. Their game after the bye is, I'm looking it up somewhere. Game after the bye is New Orleans, so it's a game that they could have had before the bye because It's New Orleans, and so it's not a great spot for them as far as the bye. We know that Baltimore is coming off a bye. That was very important, and Buffalo's coming off a bye and a couple of losses. So both Buffalo and Baltimore are coming back in great situations. We'll talk about that. The Jags, I think, absolutely needed this bye. They were reeling. And now they're off of London. They're going to have a bye. I think it's a good bye for Jacksonville.
Yeah, agreed.
Vegas needed the bye too. I mean, not that their offense should be well rested after only having 30 snaps, but Pete Carroll's got to find out which players are going to come to play. Max Crosby got banged up. He missed some of that game. So another situation where if they're going to salvage the season at all, they needed a week off.
My phone is a pinball machine at the moment. What was the last thing?
The last thing was Vegas needed the bye. Let's just put it that way.
Vegas, I don't think it matters. Do you?
Yeah. If they're going to, Vegas needs a bye every week. Yeah. Well, if they're going to salvage the season with 10 games left, I mean, there's still 10 games left but they're in a pretty brutal division. From a mindset perspective, they needed the bye now, not later. Same with Arizona. After blowing consecutive 7-point leads or more, Arizona needs to recalibrate in the worst way. And they need to make some changes, whether it be personnel or staff or whatever. Arizona needs this bye. So we got 3 out of 4, I feel, so far need the bye. Okay. Well, let's skip past Arizona because your Lions are on a bye week. What do you think about that?
I think it was a little bit early, but they do have some injuries that are coming back, some injured players that need to get healthier. It seemed like, they're clipping along okay at the moment. I wouldn't say it was a bad time, but they probably could have gone on, a little bit longer without it feeling like really opportune, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. When they come back, they will host Minnesota. So having 2 weeks to prep for whoever Minnesota's quarterback is, not bad, but kind of neutral on the bye. So I agree. A team that's going to benefit from the bye, even though part of me says keep playing, is Seattle. That's the 6th and final team that's on a bye next week. I don't know that Seattle needed the bye, but it's off a Monday night game, and it's a later Monday night game. They're going to go to Washington on Sunday night. And the good news for Seattle is Washington will be on Monday night this week. So they'll have a short week coming home, whereas Seattle will have the full 13 days.
Yeah, and Washington will be short-manded. And I think without it being overtly obvious, this is a good time for that Seattle bye, whether they know it or not.
Okay.
That team looked disheveled. It
Okay.
looked great and disheveled at the same time somehow.
Sometimes the NFL is like that. Any topics you want to bring up before we get into week 8?
Officiating has gotten worse. I can't believe some of the stuff that they're getting away with. Ball spotting issues are I saw a couple of them that were just I can't believe it. Trying to think what else. I'm obviously painfully distracted this morning. Unfortunately, I apologize to anybody else listening, but I had. That's all I had written down was officiating. Was more issues every game. It wasn't the way the Giants got down to the 1 yard line. That wasn't that
Well,
choppy.
Peyton, we still don't know what's pass interference and what's not, what's 5, what's 15 and stuff. Peyton was right in the middle of the field and deserved his penalty. What is he even out there for? He's kind of a hothead in a way, the Denver coach. So that was pretty stupid on his part.
I don't know why he threw shade at Russell Wilson, but I actually kind of like the way Russell Wilson bit back at him. It's like,
I agree.
I don't know what's up with Peyton, but there's been a couple of things that make me wonder about that guy. I respect him.
I agree completely.
So there was just but I got a kick out of Russell biting back.
Yeah. The only topic I would bring up before we go into week 8, maybe we'll have some coming up, and this is especially true in the college game, but I can tell you that it happened numerous times in the NFL game. I don't understand the logic behind coaches not understanding when to call a timeout during a 2-minute drill. Sometimes they let the clock run and then the guy gets sacked, and then they have to use a timeout, but they don't have the proper play called. There's so many things going on in the last 2 minutes. If you have 2 or 3 timeouts and you're not using one after completing a 15, 20-yard pass, and you have a young quarterback and you want to set your roster and you want to have your best play possible, I've seen some terrible uses of when to call a timeout in the NFL.
Yeah, it's gotten really bad. I'm trying to remember who in particular was really bad this week.
Yeah, I should jot them down too, because I don't have a specific case. The Jets come to mind every week, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. I don't. This is Aaron Glenn, boy. If he gets fired at the end of the year, I don't think the Lions would take him back if the spot was open.
No, he'll have to wait a little bit or be a position coach or whatever.
Yeah, this guy's got problems.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Stay away from the offense and hire an offensive coordinator with full autonomy, please, if the Jets are going to have any kind of pulse.
But, here's the thing. It's so easy to sit on our TV, in front of our TV, and we don't know the dozens and dozens of things that are going through people's minds, and they're trying to keep track of. These billion-dollar corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations, need to hire more people to assist with this stuff that just focuses on time management and other various factors that are extremely critical, but are never going to be right in front of a coach's face until they pop up immediately. And you're asking a lot out of somebody. It's like me on this show. I had to do so much stuff, trying to. And I had to do it, and I'm trying to do 2 things at once, and blah blah blah. It's the same sensation. You have to have somebody monitoring the time management, the timeouts, various different things, and when are you going for two? What's the preferred pace of play here? Things like that. Because in this league, I've noticed. One of the coaches got completely rid of. Maybe it was Aaron. A couple coaches were wasting 30 seconds to go and a half. It takes 2 throws to get you in the field goal range now. So with that in mind, there's something else that nobody's talking about is what's your pace of play management going to be at various junctures less than, in the under 5-minute region, because you can chew up a full 5 minutes if you want, or you can, choose to handle it differently. And that's what I'm noticing is, how do we, do we want to elongate? Do we want to, I don't know whether they're aware of what's preferable with the pace of play.
I'm glad you brought up pace of play because that doesn't get talked about.
No, nobody talks about it.
It's crazy. Years ago, I'm talking 30 years ago, the New York Giants had a time clock guy solely, and he got into the ear of the coach saying, call a timeout now, do this, do that, or whatever. But we don't see that now. At least we don't visibly see that. Maybe they have somebody in their ear, but this is a head coach responsibility. I understand the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, they have different things that they need to do or whatever, but the head coach has to be aware of what he wants to do. There's so many commercials that if you're coming back out of the 2-minute warning, you should be able to do this as a chess match kind of situation. What's my move? If this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do that. You should be planning 3 or 4 moves along the way. And you don't see many people being able to do that. Certainly, we don't have Kenny Stabler in the league anymore. We don't have Peyton Manning in the league anymore. These guys could do it by themselves. But these other quarterbacks are relying on the coaches to know when to rush up to the line of scrimmage, when to spike the ball, and when not to spike the ball. Sometimes you just want to spike the ball and reset. I think it's a lost art how to handle 2-minute situations.
It's a hell of a lot more complex than I think people realize, because there's a hell of a lot of moving parts going on, and you're really asking a lot of your coaching staff to be on the ball on this stuff. Don't score, stay in bounds, get out of bounds. Let them score. Things like that. These are goofy situations that you have to be aware of.
Yeah, everybody was excited for the New York Giants, and they left a few seconds off the clock.
I knew Denver was going to get a shot at it. I honestly, what the hell are they thinking? You cannot leave time on the clock.
Yeah, it's look at what T. Higgins did in Cincinnati on Thursday when he slid down and Cincinnati ended up with a field goal. Although they disagree with how they went about going to the field goal, consistently losing 3, 4, 5 yards beforehand. But Cincinnati's T. Higgins could have scored a touchdown and made it an 8-point game or something like that. And then not even an 8-point game, actually, at that particular point. It could have been 5, 6, or 7. So
they needed to burn some clock.
Yeah, so that was perfect the way that happened. Well, we got week 8 coming in a hurry, and Minnesota. Are we going with Carson Wentz again then against the Chargers on Thursday?
Get over here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I thought. Comment is kind of confirmed. Wentz is starting. It's maybe
Wentz is starting for sure.
Yeah.
But the rumor has it that the coach still likes McCarthy better and wants him for Detroit. He doesn't want him getting dinged up before Detroit. I don't know whether there's any logic to that, though.
Yeah, I think McCarthy goes against Detroit. It's going to be another 10 days after this because it's a Thursday. So they're going to probably try to ramp them up for that particular game. The Chargers don't have a great defense right now. It's kind of middle of the pack, I think, for me. And Minnesota might try to take the pressure off Wentz, in my opinion, by running the ball against the Chargers defense, which is very vulnerable to the run. I don't think you want Wentz passing 40 times in this game.
Not after the highlights I saw. You had Herbert. He threw the ball 55 times last game.
Yeah.
That's not the offense that they wanted to run. They've got nobody to run the ball, correct?
Yeah, and they have this guy Vidal who had a good game on short notice, and then he regressed back to where we thought he might be next week. Minnie's not an easy team to run against, so you're going to see Herbert pass the ball a lot again. He has a lot of weapons. The question is, Minnie's pass rush, if it gets home, it's a danger for the Chargers. If it doesn't get home, Herbert is not afraid to throw the ball downfield, and I think that's what you want to do against Minnie, just like Hurts did, throw the ball downfield. So I could see both scenarios happening where Herbert gets pressured too much and the Chargers don't get it done, or Herbert stands tall in the pocket and they find a lot of long gainers.
What do you? I think Chargers 3.5 is a little strong, though. What do you think?
Yeah, no, the point shouldn't cross 3, but actually I would have said a 2 or 2.5. And the point is made in the chat again that the Vikings are going to have some sort of presence in the fan base. This won't be a 100% LA Chargers crowd, especially, I don't know, Thursday night is a different dynamic. Do out-of-town people travel more? Maybe some of the Minnesota fans can't get here for the weekend, but maybe some of the Charger fans are staying home because they work on Friday.
Well, and you got basketball started too. They're probably not playing the same night. They just played last night, right?
Yeah, tricky game right now to handicap, but I don't think I could lay 3 in the Chargers, so I might only be looking one way if I had to look at the game. Cincinnati and the Jets. Jeez.
Tyrod Taylor's dinged up now, so who's their third string quarterback?
Well, my arm still isn't working as well as I want to, with the nerve damage and stuff like that. So I'm out. I'm out on IR, so the Jets can't call me either. So I don't know. Joe Namath is still around.
They haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Let me see on that one. The Jets they have a touchdown. They lost 13-11 to Denver and 13-6. Their defense has allowed 26 points in 2 games, but their offense, or at least they totaled 17 points total. Here's my problem with the Jets. You can react to this. The Jets have not had a bye week for the new coach. They played at London. They came back. They played immediately at Carolina. They're playing at Cincinnati. I can't imagine they're in the right frame of mind physically or mentally. I think the Jets made a big mistake not taking a bye off the Denver game.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what's God? Is Cincinnati? What are they? 3-4 now, or 4-3?
3-4. They won their first 2. Smoke and mirrors. Remember, Cleveland missed the field goal at the beginning of that game, and Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence imploded in the red zone in that game. They could have been 0-6 going into the Pittsburgh game, which they won on a last-second field goal. So you're looking at a team that is lucky to be 3-4, but if Flacco play, and they have the Jets this week, we just talked about that situation. And then they're third in a row at the home when they play Chicago. There's a chance that Cincinnati is going to be 5-3 after the next 2 weeks. 5-4.
Well, they have every reason to continue to play hard. That's for sure.
Yeah, they have a terrible power rating according to my numbers. I mean, they're in the low 20s probably. They're definitely not in the top 20 power rating wise.
Where do you have this line?
Where do I have who?
Where do you put the line on this game?
I put not counting the fatigue factor and the Joe Burrow factor, I would have set this line at 5. But factoring that in, I understand why I decided to set it at 6. And where is it now? Is it 6.5, 7?
You think with that Jets defense, who's allowed 26 points in 2 games, that Cincinnati should be giving that many points?
Sauce Gardner's in concussion protocol, I believe. He would be a big loss too. There's too many problems with the Jets. I don't think you could set a fair power number on this game. If it wasn't Flacco and his experience, this is funny to say because Flacco should have been washed up and he should be on the couch. But instead, I'm praising him now that his savvy and his ability to have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with 10 days rest against a fatigued Jet. I wouldn't take the Jets at under 10, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting game. I think the line could move one direction or the other.
The more I think about it.
It's funny because in the chat somebody mentioned what do the Jets have? It's implying that Cincinnati is a good team. I mean, a team. We know Flacco's going to fall off the wall every time he does this. He comes out, we get Flacco fever, and then all of a sudden he hits the wall, and that's going to happen at some point. And you know, we'll have to see. I don't know. I just can't see Cincinnati laying that many points.
Historically, before December's a different story with Cincinnati, but September, October, November, if you were laying Cincinnati minus 6.5, you were probably going to win 35% of the time against the spread. So this is uncharted win territory for Cincinnati, but that's the only side I would look at.
You would only look at the Cincinnati side?
Yep, I would not look at the Jets at all. I think fatigue, if you don't have Sauce Gardner and you have Chase and Higgins on either side of the ball with Flacco throwing to them, what are you going to do? The Jets have 10 sacks in 7 games.
Well, how are you not allowing teams to score?
Fundamentally, they're playing strong defensively, especially considering that Fields and Tyrod Taylor are bound to give away points rather than get points. I mean, the longer the Jet offense is on the field, the more likely the opponent's going to score, which sounds strange.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't trust. In a way, Fields would have a good matchup against Cincy because Hendrickson is banged up. Cincy, they only have 11 sacks. The Jets have 10, so you're going to get clean pockets. But Garrett Wilson, I assume he's going to. I don't know. Is he going to play this week? He didn't play last week. It's really the fact that the Jets didn't take the bye off of London and they keep playing and they keep digging themselves in the holes. The new coaching staff hasn't had a chance to reset. I think they're like 5 steps behind the game right now, just trying. It's like you when we open the show, you're trying to plug holes because you're blown in all kinds of different directions. That's the Jets. You are the Jets right now.
Well, okay.
Sorry about that. Boy, that's a blunt statement by me, huh?
No, it's that game just it's such a crappy game, but it's interesting.
Yeah, this is what happens when you brainstorm. San Francisco and Houston. I don't know. I mean, both teams are not firing San Francisco had the emotion last week. Now they go to Houston. Houston's a really good defensive team that has a chance to shut down San Francisco. But Houston's offense has a chance to be shut down as well. What are your thoughts?
I think San Francisco cannot continue to ride CMC 98% of the play.
Yeah.
You know, every time I see that guy play, it's not like he's this big, giant, bruising guy. He doesn't even look like your standard back. He's just a little under, weighs a little less than, the guys typically in that position. And you're asking this guy to do a lot of workload and stay healthy. And that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
But Houston, it's do or die for Houston. Houston's 2-4, so they need that game, and it's the short week. But San Francisco's got a little bit of breathing room behind them.
Yeah, they have wild card breathing room, divisional breathing room. Since they're all 5-2, it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah,
this is a fascinating game. I'm not ready to make an opinion on this game. I've got to look at this chess match because both defenses look like they're going to frustrate the other team.
I certainly don't see a high-scoring affair here. Do you?
No, I don't see a high-scoring affair either. It's really going to come down to. I mean, we know a lot of games come down to turnovers, but neither quarterback can afford this terrible turnover. And I'd rather have Purdy in the game. I think Mac Jones against the Houston defense would be a liability. I just think he'll be exposed. Houston's defense is still so good against the pass. And then Stroud, you got to be careful with him too, because of the reasons you mentioned when we talked about Houston's game against Seattle.
Is Houston's offensive line really that bad, or was Seattle's line that good, or is it?
I think their offensive line is not the worst in the league versus the pass and the run, but it's not in the top. It's probably C-, D+. I don't see a lot of studs on the offensive line, and they're not opening up a lot of run holes, but then Houston doesn't have a great running back tandem right now that puts fear in other teams.
What about, do we know whether Nico's in concussion protocol?
Yeah, that's a good call too. A little too early to see whether or not he plays. San Francisco, I mean, they need Nico. The youngsters stepped up, but that you're still losing something if you don't have Nico out there.
Yeah, and I remember there was he dropped a key pass.
Yeah,
in that game against Seattle. It was sort of like when Brown did for the Lions. You won't see that happen again, but that was a difference maker in that game against Seattle too.
Yeah, that was a weird game on Monday night. Okay, so you got the Bears against a rested Baltimore team. I would assume that Jackson is back for this game, and maybe a few other defensive players for Baltimore. Historically, Baltimore has been outstanding versus the spread off a bye week, off a full bye week. And then Chicago, when did they last play? They played New Orleans. They'll probably have some more wrinkles, offensive wrinkles, which might work against Baltimore because their defense over pursues. What are your thoughts on Chicago and Baltimore?
I'm not 100% convinced Jackson's coming back this week.
Okay.
He did trot out onto the field this morning. But it was interesting because they're about even money to make the playoffs still, right?
Is it that much?
In even money neighborhood, aren't they?
I'm trying to look at this. They're close to that, yeah. You go look that particular up. It's a spot that for me, I'd like to consider Baltimore, but I just don't trust them. Their defensive numbers are just so bad this year.
They are awful. Is there any way that they could improve?
Well, they need I don't. Okay, let's go back. 2022, they had 48 defensive sacks. 2023, they had 60. 2024, they had 54. So that's 114 the last 2 years. They have 8 in the first 6 games this year. If they're not going to get a pass rush, they're going to be not a factor defensively. So if you're asking me how they improve, they find a pass rush.
Hendricks. And I think they may have that division off the board.
Oh, okay.
I know it's plus 112 to get the Ravens to make the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of teams to catch. So the Bears without Johnson there, without Ben Johnson, had allowed 67 sacks in Caleb's first year. But one of the biggest assets that Ben Johnson has had, one of the biggest strengths he's had, is that Caleb has only been sacked 11 times so far this year.
I heard that David Baker talking on VSiN, and he had a really good idea, and that was if you like Baltimore to make the playoffs still, just bet them to win the Super Bowl. You can get them at like 30-1.
What's their win total?
Why would you do an even money bet? Whether they will, if you get plus 112, and you're basically going to get 30 times that, to have in play if they actually do, which I thought was a pretty good thought process.
Homework assignment for everybody that's out there listening to us. Can somebody look up Baltimore's win total? Because if their total is 8.5, you could bet over 8.5. They could win 9 games, miss the playoffs, but win on the win total. 8.5. Okay. That was my guess.
It's 8.5 under.
Yeah. So if you don't have to bet them to win the playoffs, you could just bet them over 8.5 wins. Because they're certainly if they win 8 games, they're not making the playoffs. And if they win 9 games, they probably would be squeezed out, or at least it would be close.
Yeah, that's true too. That was you get and you can still win. Yeah, that's a much better play than the playoffs, because you can win the over and not win the playoffs.
Right. And they're going to get Pittsburgh twice. I mean, they're going to play some divisional games later in the year, and there's nobody they should be scared of in the division. They have 5 divisional games left.
Would you rather have the insurance policy of them just having to go over the total, or would you rather shoot for the moon and have that 30-1 shot?
Well, in terms of bet size, I mean, you could still bet both, but the 30-1 shot, you don't have to risk as much because it's 30-1.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen in this game? I agree with you. I think Chicago, as each week goes on, is going to have an extra wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
I keep on hearing from multiple out of the multiple corners of my ears that Ben Johnson is not on the on board with the quarterback situation there. So
I agree.
So that's how that plays out. It's going to be interesting because apparently he's making faces on the sideline, and he just telegraphs. He's just making errors, like when the interview with that woman, and the faces he makes, and just some of the things he's careless about. He'd be a horrible poker player. We'll just put it that way.
And have they had their bye? Yeah, they had their bye. So they have made some adjustments, and they showed those adjustments against Washington. We talked about that previously. Miami, Atlanta. You go first on this game because I'm pretty much done with Miami, and I'd like to be done with Atlanta too.
Tua had a 24 QBR rating last week. I think that was the
Wow.
highlight of his day.
He was miserable with Cleveland and the surroundings.
Well, my Miami Dolphins fan says nuke him. Start over. How the? I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, the coach should have been gone games ago. I believe they need a new GM. The problem is the Flores lawsuit is still there, so the owner doesn't want to fire anybody that could compromise the case against him there, from what I'm told. So what are you going to do? You can't get rid of Tua in his contract. It only saves you $5 million or something to even get rid of him. And what are you going to get anyway for him? I don't even know what you do. You just got to firebomb the place.
Yeah.
Everything out of there says that they're just playing for themselves, and it's me, and that coach. My God, they always compared that guy to the pizza delivery guy or the guy that was there for the gangbang in old school. That guy would be a step up from McDaniel at this point. He sunk so low. He exudes zero confidence. He literally, when he opens his mouth, you're like, how can you make things worse? Say one more word, it's just going to get worse. It doesn't matter what you say. You look more feeble with every, subsequent comment.
There's no command presence there.
No.
The scenario I see playing out is they're currently 1-6. If they have a top 3 to 5 draft pick, I think the scenario is because everybody wants to get that fresh new quarterback, whoever it is, that they trade Tua for conditional picks. If he does this, if he does that, it's worth a third, it's worth a second or something like that. And they draft a rookie quarterback.
I don't even know. I hope I don't have to bet this game.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. I'm not betting it. Not right now. Buffalo, Carolina. So the point that we made a little bit last week, but we should reiterate it because it's this week, is that there were 2 Buffalo defensive linemen that were suspended the first 6 games of the year for PEDs. Both, they're complementary players. They're not superstars by any means. You can look up their names and everything. But obviously, Buffalo has a terrible defensive line problem when it comes to stopping the run. We're talking like 5.8 yards per carry in that vicinity. So all the bodies, all the fresh bodies they have matter. So Buffalo rested, like Baltimore, they actually are 21 out of 30 against the spread, their last 30 off a full bye. So they're good off the bye. They're getting healthy players back, and they're going to Carolina, who's in a great frame of mind, but maybe we're talking about Andy Dalton. So with that all laid out, what are your thoughts on the game?
I like the guy's comment here. He says that when we disagree on stuff, the situational has won recently, and I was thinking that myself. That the situations have actually been showing up better, but I think that is that's just a blip. I don't really notice that long term. Do you?
I think it's more than a blimp because I think it would have been a blimp in the past, but let me explain. The schedule makers have changed everything. It's 11 different situations instead of 2 or 3 where a team's road off Monday Night Football. The other team has a bye. This team's in London. They stay on the road, 3 in a row on the road for 9 different teams. The NFL is creating situations that you have to factor in more than you have had to factor in before. So because of that, the weighting of models such as yours and so on, they don't want to take into account the soft spots. And I understand that completely, because you can't that's why it's only 1/3 of my handicapping the situations. However, the NFL has made it that you have to pay more attention. That would be my answer.
Yeah, it was just great. That was a good comment, because I was thinking that myself. I'm going, boy, these situations have been biting me in the ass, and I've kind of agreed with a couple of them, but kind of stuck to my guns. So it was something that was already in my wheelhouse to consider.
The excellent chat comment. Thank you.
Yeah. As far as the Bills go, they're being dissed just by the fact that New England is being considered the better team at this point by some people. So they're going to come out guns a-blazing. Carolina should be a hot dog pick, I would think, this week. I'm surprised the line's lasted at 7 or 7.5. Why hasn't that line come down yet?
Yeah, my line without any situations would have been 5.
But the line is high, so
yeah, the line is high. However, because Buffalo's off a bye and is a veteran team and has performed well off the bye, I have to add some information there. And because they're getting these defensive linemen back that haven't even played this year, I add in that. So I actually personally set it at 7, which is still not 7.5, but I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo takes care of business this week. And then we haven't even factored in, well, if Andy Dalton plays, how rusty is he, what's going to happen, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of moving parts here. Yeah,
this is a more complex game than simply taking the hot team or I'm not going to be surprised at all to see if there's a handful of results that make sense. This game needs a lot of examination.
Yeah. So for me, I told you 1/3 of my handicapping is situational. 1/3 is based on the power ratings. And my argument here is I don't think I can apply my power ratings to this game because of these other moving parts. And sometimes there are no situations, so you don't handicap that way. And sometimes the power ratings can't be trusted because of all these moving parts. So you really have to be flexible when handicapping. At least that's my take.
What game I really didn't want to see, even though it's an interesting game, is the Giants-Eagles. Why don't give us that game now? Not after the last 2 games they played. I mean, I just don't want that game this week. I don't know why. Hurts did well, though. Hurts finally had a good game, but Barkley still hasn't had a rushing game over 58 since game 1. So this is a really interesting matchup, frankly.
It's a sweet spot for Barkley in this game. I do expect him to run well. Running isn't always correlated to winning, but I do expect Barkley to run well. The constants in this series is that Philly wins at home repeatedly, and Philly doesn't cover at home repeatedly in this series. So if that makes any sense from a teasing standpoint, based on past history, you'd say, okay, we'll tease Philly, or we'll bet the New York Giants straight, with the 7 points or whatever.
How do you how do you factor in their first meeting?
That they played already?
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, in a sense. So, I guess I would factor that in as a perk for Philly. The way they were beaten in that particular game. Now, let me look at the numbers. Barkley in that particular game was 33-58, 12 for 58. So he actually ran almost 5 yards per carry, which is something he hasn't sniffed this year. But they only ran him 12 times because they got behind and they didn't go back to the run and all that other stuff. So, that comment there, I can make a case that Philly will come back. I really don't want to play this game, even though I'll go back to what you said. I don't want to see the game now.
I know. Isn't
I
that
want to see the
strange?
game 4 weeks from now so I can take the Giants +7 or 7.5.
I
That was a
did.
good.
How do you think do you think Giants respond well after that Denver loss, or how do you see the team? How do you see them responding?
See, that's why I agree. That's why I love your comment. I don't want to see the game now. I don't know what's in their mindset there or whatever. I think Dart, as a young quarterback, will respond as if that didn't happen. He's going to go back to it and stuff like that. But it eats at the coach. It eats at some of the other people. Um, you know, Philly is finding ways to win when they shouldn't win this year. So I figure they'll find a way to win, and the Giants can help matters out if they can't stop Barkley. The Giants need to get off the mat early because they don't want to see a heavy dose of Barkley in this game.
I think I think the Giants are drawing live. I think that Dart, from what I've seen, and it's very superficial. I like that Dart guy's attitude, and I think there's a new energy with that team, and I think that they could do okay. And again, I, I just don't think Philadelphia's. I think they've got problems.
I like all of those points because the Giants are a different team. They're playing like they belong in not the playoffs, but they're playing like they belong in a 7, 8, 9 win type of atmosphere with Dart bringing that newfound energy. They have problems in terms of personnel defending certain aspects, but we'll see. I mean, Philly's got to be mad. I mean, they lost 34-17. So it's still fresh in their mind.
Yeah.
I probably, based on this, helps to actually say it out loud because I was leaning probably the Giants in this game, especially at 7.5. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger because I'm just a little worried that Philly's focus in this game will be good.
Well, that's true.
So had Philly won 34-17 against the Giants, this would be a Giant play.
Sure. Oh, what do we got? Browns and Patriots. Ugh.
Yeah. I tried to chart out the Cleveland's road game numbers versus the home game numbers, and I just don't like Cleveland in this spot.
I don't have much to say about it. I mean, this May looks really good. 62 yards rushing. I think no turnovers. Did he have no? I mean, he's playing pretty well.
Yeah, he has 3 turnovers on the year, none last week. He's running well. He's hitting 70% for a second-year guy. Yeah. I don't have much to say on this game, so I don't mind moving on to a tough one to handicap, and that's Tampa at New Orleans. We're without Mike Evans. We don't know about the other injured players. It's a short week for Tampa.
Well, yeah, we do know there's no Godwin or Goodwin, and there's no the running back. What's his name? Or I guess I forget. They did announce players out.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the series history when New Orleans hosts, and it's kind of mixed. As a dog, they're 1-2 lately against the spread. As a favorite, it's 50-50 versus the spread. They're obviously a dog in this game. I love Baker Mayfield and what he brings to the table, but it's been like they're winning, fourth quarter games in the last seconds and stuff like that. This doesn't look like a good spot for Tampa.
Bucky Irving was the guy I was thinking about. Thanks, Birdie.
Yeah, he has missed a few games.
Yeah, and then I would, and we know Evans is out, so limited.
other than the quarterbacks, because Baker Mayfield's better than Spencer Rattler, and Tampa could bait Rattler into interceptions like last week.
He had a really bad game last week, right?
Yeah, he regressed, and he got fooled by Chicago. Chicago had defensive guys back.
Did they lose their center also?
They lost their center during the game.
Is he going to be back?
Do not know.
And field goal, their kicker, they have a kicking problem too?
That I don't have. I chart college more than NFL for kickers. I chart special teams, but not kickers in particular, unless I know something specific.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will say this, that other than a quarterback, Tampa's stat sheet and New Orleans stat sheet is not that much different. I think if you like New Orleans, you're not getting points that you deserve via the power rating, but part of that is because of the Tampa Bay injuries. But I still think that New Orleans could win this game straight up.
Yeah, that's you know what, that's another game that I don't want this week. I don't know why.
Well, if you have a quiet week, it's not bad to have a reset. Maybe we should be on a bye. I don't want my bye yet because I think it would slow momentum. But as soon as my momentum stops, I'll take the bye week. I have a bye game though.
Yeah,
Tennessee at Indianapolis looks like a bye game for me.
Indianapolis has scored on 13 out of 14 drives, I believe.
Find me a flaw in the metrics on Indianapolis right now.
They're averaging 3.46 points per drive. It's like the highest this century. Taylor's had 3 out of 5 games with 3 or more touchdowns. He's going to break the Indianapolis record next week. And when he passes Ender and James, I mean, that's just it's amazing. It's like the Peyton Manning days.
Yeah, I don't have a stat that Indianapolis is not at least averaging, which is crazy. So I don't want to go against them. I'm not going to lay 14 points because I don't see motivation for Indy this week. They play Pittsburgh the following week, but
I think they're a safe survivor pick. That's the only thing I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a safe survivor pick. Tennessee's in complete disarray, but I don't want to, we talk every year about not getting in front of moving trains, and maybe Indy is a train that's starting to build momentum that you don't want to get in front of. I don't know.
No, you don't. I don't like teasing. I don't like teasing a favorite if you're not going to get under 3.
Yeah.
And I don't even like that. I like getting down to the 0 as much as possible.
Here's an intriguing game, Dallas-Denver. I mean, that's really intriguing to me because you have Dallas firing on all cylinders offensively. Their numbers, where do you have Dallas offensively in the league?
Well, I'm sure they've got to be. They were number 1 2 weeks ago. They're probably the same.
Yeah, they're just Indy, Dallas, eventually Kansas City, the way they're playing. Maybe a couple of others, but Dallas's offensive stats, and then they don't get sacked. So there's a team that gets sacked once a game, 8 and 7 games, versus a Denver team that has 34 defensive sacks. So what gives?
No, Dallas is number 2 offensively.
Okay.
Take a wild guess at number 1 since.
Well, a wild guess. Well, I mean, Indy should be in the top 5.
Yeah, they're number 1. They're number 1.
Yeah. They have to be theirs.
Boy, this is a tough spot. That's when you get a win like that, this could be a real flat spot for Denver. especially when their head coach was kind of shamed a little bit.
Yeah.
They got a win they weren't supposed to. Their coach embarrasses the team afterward. Um, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think the odds makers are asking people to take Denver in this game. By power rating, I would have the number 4, Denver favored by 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be involved in this game. My numbers are pretty tight, also.
Yeah, I have a general indicator that goes against Dallas, but I don't really want to. I don't really want to trust Denver, but we'll see. If the line is 3, I suppose I'm not supposed to play Denver, but it would be really close. Not my favorite.
Sunday night misery ahead. Green Bay and the Steelers.
The Aaron Rodgers bowl game.
My gosh, there's a lot of moving parts in this game.
Yeah. So Pittsburgh has 10 days to reset. They lose the Cincinnati game. They feel bad about how it happened. Their defense, like you said, didn't come to perform. They got burned by not Burrow, but Flacco, Chase, and Higgins. But they have 10 days now and Aaron Rodgers is thinking about this game for 10 days.
Whatever both of these teams find a way to disappoint you so often that it's hard to. It really just takes more time to digest. I'm just not a believer in the Steelers, but this Green Bay cannot put anybody away. And after a loss like they had and the extra rest on Pittsburgh, it's just a goofy situation.
There's extra rest. Here we go with another one of those situations that you have to at least pay attention to. And that's Pittsburgh has 10 days. Green Bay goes west to Arizona. So it's a road game at Arizona. Then they come home. Then they go east to Pittsburgh, although it is Sunday night instead of first thing Sunday morning. But it's kind of a weird travel situation anyway.
Speaking of the weird travel, since we just touched on that game, Denver flew into London and flew out. There was the first team that ever did that. They didn't waste their time spending their whole week there. Just something to take note of, in future London trips.
Yeah, teams are going to experiment and plan it all kinds of different ways, and eventually it'll be superstition. If they won their last time, they're going to stay the same way, and if they lost, they're going to stay the same way.
I've said that Pittsburgh is not rated highly, and they did nothing to improve that rating last week. I'll leave it at that. It's I could only look one way in the game.
Yeah, I need to do more work on this game. I would lean Pittsburgh at, what are we talking, 3.5 now?
If you want a 3.5, you're going to find one.
Yeah.
So no, it actually came. No, not really.
It's kind of 3 with. I think you'd have to lay juice with 3.5.
Yeah, you're laying juice. Well, you can get flat 3s. I was looking at the game above it. You got a 3.5 going with Denver, but.
Yeah, I would. 3.5 is one way look for me. But I'm not too thrilled. I really don't. When we spoke last Wednesday, I had probably 5 opinions right away and this and that and whatever and so on. I'm not sure I have any. I have pretty much 2 opinions right now, and I have to decide how I'm going to play those games. The others are just percolating right now. I don't have a lot of convictions at this point in time this week.
Yeah, I didn't have a good week last week, so I'm digesting. I'm still digesting last week, and I haven't been in a mood to rush into anything. I want to kind of cleanse the palate, so to speak, before I taste next week. So
Makes
uh,
sense.
I'll be doing some more work later today and stuff, but got to take care of these other problems that keep on popping up.
Really?
The Monday
Um,
night game, I think I kind of led with that. My belief is I think we're seeing a different Kansas City team that I don't know, for whatever reason, I think it is going to get distance when they can.
yes. This is Washington back-to-back road games. I know that they have an extra day and a half to prep, but we're probably not going to see Daniels, and if we do, we're not going to see him at full strength. So you may be going to Marcus Mariota.
Daniels is out. They already listed him out.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm behind too because I've been traveling and doing other stuff the last few days. So I don't have all the injury stuff and who's out and who's not. So appreciate that. But this is not a great situation for Washington. Certainly not to win the game. And Kansas City, standalone game, chance to make amends for the last time they were on prime time when they went to a hyped up, jacked up Jacksonville team who came from behind to win that particular game. I would think Kansas City does want to pour it on in this situation.
Yeah, this is one of those Karate Kid instances. No mercy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not in the business of laying double digits or whatever it is right now. What are we talking about? Oh, no, it really jumped. When I saw it, it was 10, and now we're talking 12 and a half. Yeah. Oh, that's good. It'll be a quiet Monday. Monday night, I could start prepping for everything else because I don't think I'll be involved in this particular game. So it might be a quiet weekend. I could change my mind by Friday, but it might be a bit of a quiet weekend.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for my multitasking. For those that weren't at the beginning, my Twitter account and some other stuff have been hacked, and the timing couldn't have been worse. And I was under time constraints that I had to must answer now type questions. So that's why I was distracted. And I'm going to get back to it. We're going to be back, same bet channel, same bet time next week, right, Ron?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to all the chat because a lot of what we discussed on this show today and brainstormed, and I thought we came up with some really good stuff, was because some of the ideas came from the chat. So I want to thank you with that. And like both of us said, we need to do more work. We're not fully convinced on some of our opinions right now, but I'll be back. Maybe Cris will be back if he sorts things out with the Inside Blitz tomorrow at noon. So we'll have more opinions, and we'll have Jonathan Taylor of Indianapolis. Apparently, for all the Indianapolis fans, Ted's got audio for Jonathan Taylor.
Nice.
And then, so that'd be good. And yes, Cris, we will be back again next Wednesday.
Yes, same time tomorrow with Ted and Ron. And if I'm available, I'll join. And if not, I'll see you next Wednesday. Appreciate it.